Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 305 Insights. I'm your host, Alan Somerton, and today we're talking about the two newest openings at UCLA and Virginia Tech. UCLA has pressed the reset button 3 games into 2025, with DeShaun Foster being let go as head coach. Foster finishes with a 5-10 overall record, and that includes an 0-3 start this season. Foster was a former running back, I believe, at UCLA, and he had never actually held a head coaching position before and was kind of unfortunately thrown into the fire here when Chip Kelly decided to leave the school mid-cycle. And to salvage the recruiting class, UCLA decided to go hiring within, and that's what elevated Foster to being the head coach. He showed signs of life at the end of last season, winning a few games to finish 5-7. But after getting his star QB transfer in Nico, there was sort of heightened expectations, and yet an 0-3 start, including a loss to a 15-point underdog in New Mexico, has led to him being relieved of his duties. He leaves behind a school that has a massive budget shortfall, a lack of NIL, and limited resources being invested in the football program altogether. This will clearly be a tall mountain to climb for any candidate that takes this job, and the next hire needs to understand this and accept that there's going to be severely tough sledding ahead in order to get this program back to relevancy. For this program, I'm going to be talking about the top 3 coaches that I think can be a good fit and or realistic hire. So for UCLA, my number 3 guy is Will Stein, the offensive coordinator at Oregon. To me, Will is the current it guy, the hot coordinator, the guy who can pick and choose whatever position or whatever head coaching job he wants. And this is due to how Oregon has performed well with him despite the turnovers on offense year over year. And when I say turnover, I don't mean like interceptions and fumbles. I mean, you started off with Bo Nix, a transfer portal QB. Then you moved on to Dylan Gabriel, a transfer portal QB. And now you have Dante Moore, a transfer portal QB. That being said, Oregon hasn't skipped a beat when it comes to offensive production. Now, will he be interested? UCLA is part of the Big Ten, just like Oregon. The school is in a massive market in LA. But is that enough? Like I said, he can choose where he probably wants to go next. Imagine if another Big Ten job opens up that is more committed to the concept of winning football games. What about an SEC job if Florida comes calling? Because we all know Billy Napier is not going to be there. It's just a matter of, is this enough of a springboard for him to take the job? Because again, this is a very difficult job. Do you want to risk your first opportunity with a job like this? Internally, in terms of coaching circles and whatnot, and I'm sure probably athletic directors understand what type of job this is, so he may get a second chance. But again, do you really want to stake your first opportunity at being a head coach in the Power 4 conferences when you could clearly have other options? Number 2, I really hate to put this name up here, and you'll understand why, but I got Tony White, the defensive coordinator at FSU. He's had success at Syracuse, Nebraska, and now he's had a really good start to his career at FSU. He's a former UCLA player, so another alumni that could come in and be the homegrown savior for the program. Again, he's had proven results at each one of his stops. Why do I hate saying the name? Because I think he can work wonders at FSU. The type of athletes, the type of recruits, the type of transfers that he could get compared to Syracuse or Nebraska, this man could cause fits for any offensive coordinator and or head coach on the opposing sideline for years to come at FSU. But unfortunately, I do think he's not going to be at FSU for long because of the success that he's going to have. Now, Will UCLA commit to providing more resources, or will White wait another year for a better opportunity? Again, I think if FSU finishes strong this year, let's say they finish off 9-3 after a 2-10 season, and you see the type of defensive output they have without the blue chip star making abilities that people are accustomed to in Tallahassee, and he's doing it with, of course, again, you have guys like Darrell Jackson, Earl Little, James Williams, certain guys that have been recruited and or developed on the defensive side, but you're also doing it with younger guys and transfer guys. This is something that's going to have to be done at UCLA. You're going to have to develop young men because you're not necessarily going to get those high-end transfer portal kids to come into UCLA. You're also going to have to develop kids because you might not get those 4 or 5-star recruits. You may get a few 4 stars, but you're not going to get those high level recruits because in all likelihood they're going to Oregon, they're going to USC, they're going to Ohio State, they're going to Alabama, they're going to Texas, wherever. We're going all across the country. Will it be appealing enough for Tony White? The final person I think would be the best fit for UCLA, and it's going to be surprising, but once I explain why, I think they'll be in agreement with this. Dan Mullen is my number one pick for UCLA, the head coach at UNLV. He started off 3-0 there. He was 69-46 at Mississippi State, and he was 34-15 at Florida. And now, in hindsight, those records are more impressive with how the schools have performed since his departure. Again, Mississippi State had some success under Mike Leach, but unfortunately he passed away, and you see where they've been after that. You've seen at Florida, they thought they hit it off with Billy Napier, and that clearly hasn't worked. Mullen loves developing talent and focuses on fit rather than the star levels and recruiting rankings. That's unfortunately the mentality that got him kicked out of Gainesville because they wanted him to recruit at a high level, and he wasn't interested in that based off of his infamous post-game press conference after Georgia, where Kirby Smart was saying he's got to go recruit, and Dan Mullen says we're going to recruit when we need to, in the sense of they're going to recruit in the offseason rather than during the season. At UCLA, he will be back in a Power 4 program, and he will be, as unfortunate as to say this, in a place that doesn't have a lot of expectations, and he'll be able to develop the kids in a level similar to Mississippi State. And I think UCLA would gladly accept that at this point. The other program that has let its head coach go is Virginia Tech with Brent Pry. They've ended the Pry era after an 0-3 start to this season with a demoralizing loss to Old Dominion, where they were soundly ran off the field. And this was after losses to Vanderbilt and South Carolina. Pry finished with a 16-24 record and couldn't capitalize on the momentum he built 2 years ago, where the team had a winning record and went to a bowl game, and they returned a lot of starters, and they fell short last year. And they fell short again to start the first 3 games this year. Virginia Tech Athletic Director Whit Babbitt has made the school board understand how far they are in terms of falling behind in today's current NIL college football era. Now, Babbitt himself, I don't think is on solid ground. I think he is completely aware of that, and he's trying to make a last-ditch effort for his job. But he's also not wrong in the data that he's presenting to the school board. It's pretty much now or never for Virginia Tech to make a change on numerous levels, not just the coaching staff, but making the concerted effort to invest in the program to bring it back. And again, who's to say that Virginia Tech can make it back to the championship game like it did in 2000 with Michael Vick? But the notion that Virginia Tech can't be a well-respected 8-4, 9-3 institution is not out of the realm of possibility in my eyes. With all the talent in the DMV area and the brand that they have, it should be possible. For number 3, I've got a Hail Mary and Michael Vick, the head coach at Norfolk State. This pick is assuming that Virginia Tech makes the commitment to hire a talented pool of assistants. You can almost see it in the same vein, hoping like a Deion Sanders type effect that he had in Colorado. Although, again, he did have Travis Hunter and his son Shedeur Sanders. But again, the certain types of talent, like a Julian Lewis 5-star QB that was being able to be recruited at Colorado, and some of the transfers that they've received, in all likelihood, those guys would have no interest going there if it wasn't for Deion Sanders and some of the coaching staff that he has at hand there. You kind of view it in the same way for Virginia Tech matching up with Michael Vick, the most legendary player to come out of that program. And he is in his first year as a head coach at Norfolk State. But again, this is something that it's a Hail Mary because he doesn't have the experience. However, this is something that could revitalize the program in terms of eyeballs, in terms of donations, NIL, and all those sorts of things, and the type of players and or coach that you can get involved with this to make sure that could be a success. Again, it's a Hail Mary because of the inexperience, but also could be a Hail Mary for all of the net positives that it could bring in. Number 2, this is a guy that you're going to have to reach out to him and make him say no. The guy I'm talking about here is Shane Beamer, the head coach of South Carolina. He's the son of the legendary head coach Frank Beamer, who led Virginia Tech to its most successful sustained period of winning. And again, he views South Carolina as a better destination than most coaches do inside of coaching circles and the industry. But he has shown the ability to build up a program because South Carolina hasn't looked so hot after those few good years from Steve Spurrier. Again, I thought they were overrated coming into the season, but regardless, they were a borderline playoff team last year. After starting off, I believe it was 3-3. They routed off 6 straight wins, and they were one of the most feared teams in the nation. He could have a homecoming of sorts and come back and restore the brand that his father built. Do I think he leaves South Carolina? I'm not sure. You've got a lot of your fingerprints all over that team. You've done a solid job there. Will it be enough to go to a school when you have someone like South Carolina in the SEC who's willing to invest in the program, and you compare it to Virginia Tech, which is in the bottom 4th of ACC schools that are dedicating resources to its athletics, much less college football? Is that a fair enough trade-off for him? I'm not sure. But again, you have to reach out to him and make him say no. And number 1, I've got Jimbo Fisher, the former head coach of Texas A&M and Florida State. I think with the Texas A&M buyout money, Virginia Tech could kind of offset how much it would cost to hire Jimbo Fisher and have a mutual agreement there. Because again, remember, we talked about this years ago on this podcast. That contract was fully guaranteed despite the fact that if he got fired and hired at another head coach, he would still get the full salary that he was receiving from Texas A&M. So maybe you could hire Jimbo at $2 or $3 million when he's getting north of $7 million a year from Texas A&M. And you could kind of offset it that way. As a championship level head coach, he won at Florida State, one really good season at Texas A&M, which was the COVID season, but couldn't put it all together there. You'd like to think that after his experiences with A&M, where he's actually been on Freddie Stevenson's podcast, the former fullback at Florida State, where he talked about how he didn't want to leave Florida State. But again, Florida State at the time did not want to invest money into the program as much as he believed was necessary to keep up in the facilities wars, in the coaching staff wars at the time. So he left for Texas A&M. Now, the problem is his ego got in the way. He always wanted to call plays. He always wanted to be in charge. He always had to overmanage everything. Did he learn from those experiences at Texas A&M? If he did, and he's stated that he's wanted to get back into coaching, he's from the West Virginia area. And again, this is why I believe this is a great fit for Virginia Tech. That being said, another side note about this, with these two coaches being fired, it does open up a 30-day window for these kids to transfer. It's going to be interesting to see the ramifications of that. They haven't played 4 games. It's going to be interesting the ramifications of the redshirting policy, because you can redshirt as long as you don't play 4 games. How many kids on these teams are going to redshirt and or transfer? Is Nico going to wave the white flag on this transfer to UCLA and just bail out now? You've already seen multiple blue chip recruits from UCLA decommitting. And we'll see how many different teams are going to try and pick up the scraps from Virginia Tech and UCLA to add to their recruiting class. It's only 3 games in, folks, and we're already having coaching movement. And these are definitely not going to be the last coaching moves, I would say, over the next month or so. But we'll see how that develops. It's the end of the episode, folks. You know the drill. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe. Like the videos. Comment. Give us some feedback. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. Rate us 5 stars there. And you can find us on Spotify as well. Thanks for listening to this episode, folks. Thanks for stopping by. And we'll catch you next time here on 305 Insights. Have a good one, folks.